Hello, my name is Maxim Lakomsky. I am founder of Rasclewat Entertainment and creator of the DimShifters VR, the most ambitious mobile VR game ever created. And this is the second part of my dev diary. Feeling the surrounding reality is one thing. Another thing is to make this reality interesting and memorable, a unique experience in itself. The greatest interest arises in the exploring of the unknown. To achieve this goal, to maintain the feeling of the unknown, DimShifters VR have a large number of unique and diverse locations. The main idea of the game, reflected in its name, is shifting between dimensions. Visiting different locations on Earth and in other dimensions, the main character will also travel in time, step farther and farther into the future. The differences between dimensions and time epochs of humanity gives the game an incredible variety of environments, enemies and weapons. In different sections of the game levels, you will encounter different types of obstacles and have different options for overcoming them. At the same time, the game takes into account the affection of staying in virtual reality and the limitations associated with our comfort and fatigue, so the levels are not too long, much shorter than in more familiar classic games, but very intense. Many classic games use high difficulty to compensate for the lack of content, but here we have a completely different story. There is a lot of content and it's constantly changing. The difficulty of the game is set up in such a way to give the player pleasure from every second of being in virtual reality and not to oppress you. Make you feel like the most influential force in the multiverse that makes history through space and time. Help it make a scientific breakthrough? You will see how this will change the human civilization. Eliminated the threat? See how something else takes its place. The whole multiverse is waiting for your actions, ready to give out the consequences. Being in an atmospheric copy of our reality in VR is an impressive experience, of course, but it's much more interesting to give the player an experience they've never had before, rather than simulating one that already exists. An experience beyond our imagination that is not possible in our reality, but can be created in the virtual. Create the worlds outside of us, not only in space, but in all senses. The other dimensions in DimShifters VR are not just an attempt to bring the usual sci-fi to VR. This is an attempt to create a something that lies beyond, something weird, but at the same time alive. So that, in contrast to the usual things, the player still believes in the reality around him. The first thing that helps in this is the bringing of something strange and alien into our reality. In fact, this is the main theme of the game, how our world will look like when something that does not exist now, and that we still cannot imagine, appears in it. And this is exactly what DimShifters VR demonstrates as realistically as possible. Moreover, this theme is reflected not only in the story of the game, but also in its technological basis to become something new and absolutely unique when nothing like this has ever existed before in mobile VR. When you see familiar things, ordinary houses, streets or forests, you will understand how realistic and at the same time unfamiliar they look. It's like it's a different world, but when you first get into another dimension, that's when everything changes. You will really see how different other worlds can be from ours and how limited we are in our imaginations and fantasies here on Earth. An important factor in the immersion of your journey will not only be a complex surround sound system created specifically for mobile VR, but also a musical score. Music on earthly locations will be different from music in other worlds, and you will immediately feel it. And along with this, you will see how the moods set by the game changes. Very often, background music in games evokes a feeling of peace. It kind of supports the player, gives a feeling of confidence that everything is going linearly and at a predetermined pace. In the case of earthly locations, it was important to evoke the opposite feelings with help of music, discomfort and anxiety. The very sensations that a person will get if the events shown in the game actually happened. Extraterrestrial locations are distinguished by their mood. They are no longer just uncomfortable, they are absolutely strange and unknownable places for a human, sometimes even frightening, and the music reminds of this fact, emphasizes the infinity of the multiverse and the tininess of man. The third important difference will be less noticeable forces, but their influence lies at the very basis of the existence of other worlds. We are talking, of course, about physics. Not only the sound system was custom-made for DimShifters VR, but so was the physical model, and it shows up in a lot of details. One of the main things familiar to us on Earth is its orderliness. Rain in a strong wind falls in one direction. The smoke from the fire is also tends to go there. From all high fires, it flies in one direction. Since the wind on Earth is a uniform, ordered force, clouds will also fly in the same direction as rain and smoke. But in other worlds, order can be completely different and even indistinguishable at first glance from chaos, but still it exists. The wind can carry vapors and smoke in completely different directions under the influence of gravity that is absolutely unprecedented on Earth, and the gas atmosphere can exist in several independent layers right in the middle of an endless void, like water currents in tide oceans of Earth. And you feel the effect of alien gravity on yourself. A fall from a height on Earth will be different from a similar fall in another universe, as well as jumping and the force of acceleration. And all this you can experience on your own perception in virtual reality. No mercy, only pure physics. And where there is a change in gravity, there is a change in time. Having entered another dimension at one time of day and under one weather conditions, you will leave it at a completely different time with a different weather. Moreover, even the optical properties of the atmosphere in other worlds will differ from ours. This, among other things, emphasizes the effects of the lens, which look different, since light in other worlds spreads differently and also has its own color properties. On Earth, we are used to the fact that the light has warm shades and the shadows is cold, but in other worlds, everything can be quite the opposite. The multiverse is big and it knows how to impress. That's all for today. Remember that you can download the first episode of this VR miracle for free right now and check the game's performance on your device before purchasing all other episodes of first season. Enough to behold the past. Explore the future reality experience right now with DimShifters VR.